Hello, thank you for joining us today for our third in our series, the Instapage Product Tour, Coffee and Conversions. Some quick housekeeping items today as we get ready to begin. Please, if you have any questions during the webinar, submit them in the Q&A window and we will answer them towards the end. We'll also be sending out a recording and a copy of today's deck via email early next week, so keep an eye out for that. And then finally, at the end of today's session, we'll share a survey via email to gather kind of your feedback to learn, what you want and expect from these webinars so we can make sure that we're providing you with valuable and actionable insights. So now that we have gone over those, I hope everyone has grabbed their coffee cup and is ready to get started. So our agenda for today is first, we're going to go over some new and existing features within the Instapage platform. And then we are going to go through a live in-product demonstration. Finally, we'll follow that up with a Q&A session. Joining us today is our Associate Product Manager, Griffin, and our Senior Product Manager, Evan, and then myself, Michelle Barnes, who is the Senior Manager of Strategic Services, fancy way of saying conversion rate optimization. So let's go ahead and get started with our features. Kicking things off, we want to go over our collaboration feature, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Griffin, to go ahead and get us started.
Sounds good. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, so with collaboration, this is a feature we've had, and really collaborating directly on your landing pages is just a great way to streamline your review process. To get started, you just have to get your shareable link from your landing page, and then you can share it with your reviewers. You also have the option to invite your reviewers by email. After that, your reviewers can access your landing page and add comments exactly where they want. And then from within comments, you can reply back and forth to get fully aligned. The great part about this workflow is that it really makes everyone's lives just a whole lot better and easier. The builder, they have all their comments in one place, and they know exactly what needs to be updated. And then for the reviewers, they don't have to take screenshots. I'm sure we've all been there, taking screenshots, trying to find the file to really tell them exactly what needs to be changed and updated. And so it just makes everyone's lives better. It's a win-win, and ultimately it helps you get more landing pages out faster.
Perfect. That's a lot of great information. And then some tips and tricks surrounding that. So centralizing that feedback is the benefit of having it all within the page, and that helps to avoid confusion that can arise from different scattered communication. So definitely having that collaboration, that repository of information is useful, but also setting up notifications to kind of keep the stakeholders updated on different milestones of the pages will help avoid different feedback delays and sustain that momentum in the landing page creation. One additional thing I recommend for larger teams is to make sure that you designate who you have in place for final decisions. So a lot of times when landing pages are being created, a lot of people will have different feedback. And so it's very important to establish, who is the final decision maker on when changes will be made and what those changes will be. So definitely recommend that as you work on your collaboration. The next item that we want to go over as a feature is the carousels. So Griffin, I'm going to hand that back to you.
Yeah, let's get into carousels. This is a great interactive element that you can add to your landing pages. They allow you to build multiple slides that visitors can scroll through, ultimately helping you boost engagement and share more content without taking up extra space. Each of our carousel slides, they have their own dedicated canvas, as you're probably familiar with our blocks, our canvas blocks. And here you can precisely place elements like headlines, images, buttons, and more to create your ideal design. Really, carousels, they're just a great way to cleanly showcase multiple products, offers, messages, ultimately to drive more conversions.
Awesome. And some kind of like additional benefits and tips and tricks for carousels. Really, that first one, place the most important information on your first slide. So typically the 40% of interactions happen on that first slide. So you want to make sure that you're not hiding that anywhere else. And then if possible, which I know is a feature within the platform, is to use visible arrows to help visitors explore the content without confusion. So making sure we show them how to navigate it is super important. And with that note, visitors tend to engage well with carousels. However, from a CRO perspective, I wouldn't recommend putting any information in a carousel that is imperative for visitors to know. So Generally, they're good for things like testimonials, where visitors can kind of scroll through, view that information, or maybe less motivating information or some visuals that you want them to see that aren't like imperative information or motivating information that they would need before making their decision. So making sure that you optimize those will ensure that you're getting the most out of the tool when you implement them on your landing pages. Following up on carousels, we have a feature that was recently released is our fluid grid blocks. So Griffin, can you tell us more about those?
Yeah, fluid grid blocks. This is one that our customers have been loving. Really, just to kind of take a step back for some context, we've offered one block type initially, which was a canvas block that I mentioned, which lets you place elements exactly where you want. But we offered this one because we know sometimes a blank canvas, it can be intimidating to start from. And that's where fluid grid blocks come in. This new block type offers 20 container-based grids to build from, giving you now the best of both worlds. You know, you have a precise canvas to start from and build that exact design that you have in mind, or you can start from a guided grid and use any of the 20 grids that you have an option to and go from there. To get started, you just have to go to your blocks as you normally would. But now, instead of selecting canvas blocks, you'll select fluid grid blocks. Then you'll pick your grid you want to use. You can drop in your elements into each container and then adjust your settings to quickly set alignment, spacing, and more in bulk. And the best part about this new block is that they're automatically responsive, meaning your layout settings and structure will adapt and scale to any screen size automatically.
Awesome. And with that, I would definitely recommend, establish different guidelines for your styles in there. Make sure that's shared with the team who's building out those, especially for margins and padding, and that creates consistency across different pages that you'll be creating inside Instapage. And then use Instablocks and global blocks coming soon for consistency when placing blocks across multiple pages. And so what that allows you to do is really take a block that you've created and reuse it multiple times on different pages. And that way you can maintain that consistency as well. So then moving into our next feature, which is a convert feature for our convert plan, is heat maps. So Griffin, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, as Michelle mentioned, this is a feature that we offer on our convert plan. It's a CRO tool, and it lets you visualize and understand how your visitors are interacting with your page. This, usually requires an additional tool, but we built this right into our platform, so you don't have to navigate more tracking scripts and tools, and really it just makes more sense to be where your pages are. With the way we've set it up, you just have to open the heat map on your published page, and then you can see insights around mouse movements, clicks, and scroll depth. And then let's say you see a large amount of clicks on your hero image. Since Instapage already has A/B testing built into the platform as well, you can start a test right there. You can add a video. You can see if that impacts conversions because you saw the clicks were happening there. You swap out that image with a video and see if that makes a difference. Our goal is really to understand and simplify your workflow all in one platform. And this is another great example, similar to collaboration, as I mentioned earlier, of how we achieve that.
That's great information. And, as you're looking at the heat maps, a lot of the questions that I get around it is like, how do I know what to do with the information that's being provided by the heat map? So some tips and tricks that we've added in here is really look for elements on the page where visitors are clicking that may perform no action. So that can be a point of friction or frustration for visitors. And you want to make sure if they're clicking on it, that it does perform some sort of action for that visitor. Next, you can see where visitors are falling off of the page. So you have that scroll map available within the heat map section. And so let's say they're scrolling off at like 47% depth of the page, but they're not clicking on any sort of element. Maybe that's an area where you trigger an exit intent pop-up, or even just like a scroll trigger pop-up for that one. Or you can add a CTA at that point. So when they're reaching that, you're pushing them towards that primary action. And then this is one other item that I don't find a lot of users considering, but if you see a lot of visitors scrolling to the bottom of the landing page, that could be an indication that they're not finding the information that you're looking for. It's normal to see a taper off as they scroll down the page, but if you do see that, 90, nearly 100% of visitors are reaching that bottom, it could be that they're looking for more information and they're not finding it. So that's a good opportunity to really evaluate and say, what else can we add to this page? Maybe add an FAQ section on there or something additional that's going to add clarification and help motivate them towards the next step. All right. So moving on from heat maps, I'm excited to announce a new feature that will be coming out soon, and some visitors and users may have seen it already, but our API. So Griffin, go ahead and tell us about that.
Yeah, as Michelle mentioned, this is a feature we have in beta testing. You may have seen it, you may not. If you haven't, contact our support team and get access. Today, I'm just going to give y'all an overview. And really, the power here is that you all can now build unique custom solutions on top of Instapage with our API. So, for example, with our analytics endpoints, you can create detailed reports in your analytics tools to identify optimization opportunities or seasonal trends. You can also build custom integrations, features, and more based on your unique marketing needs. As you explore here, we recommend involving your development team to clarify what's possible and where they can support. However, just this week, we're excited to announce that we made a Google Sheets report template to get you started using our API without any dependencies. So you can just get your API token, plug it into this report, and you'll be good to go. You'll see those reports from your account. You'll see information like your published pages, your unique monthly visitors, your top 10 pages based off traffic and how they're converting. So you can see where to optimize your conversion optimization efforts. And yeah, you can find that in our help center. And actually, Michelle's going to talk about this and walk you through it later in this webinar.
Yeah, I'm excited to share that with everyone. Some items to keep in mind as you are planning to work with an API. So the first thing is make sure that you understand the API thoroughly. Before integration, kind of sorry, that's a word, I swear, familiarize yourself with the API's documentation. That way you can make sure that you're implementing it correctly. And especially when it comes to the automation, you're not accidentally automating something that could change something in your account you don't want changed. And then make sure that you're optimizing those data requests, especially when it comes to reporting. The more that you're requesting from the API, the longer it's going to take to pull that information. So by optimizing, make sure that you're only calling the necessary information needed to evaluate performance or see what data that you're looking for in there. And then one thing that will come up in a moment. So with the API, you are given a token that's very unique to your account. And so it's important to make sure that that is kept confidential. So you want to make sure that you're not placing it in public forums where other people can get that information. And Evan will go over in a few moments. If for some reason it is exposed, there is an opportunity to regenerate that token as well. That way you can make sure that you're keeping that information safe. So APIs are very powerful, but it does allow access to a lot of information. So make sure that you're using them responsibly. Which leads me into our next section, Evan, with the in-product demonstration. So now instead of just telling you about our features, we can actually show you how to use them in the platform and what they do. So let me go ahead and pass it off to you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Just having a quick transition here.
Okay, let me drag this away. Now here we are. So the first thing we want to talk about is the collaboration. There are a few ways to add team members to your account so that you can collaborate with them. First, we have a quick action here that will get you straight to the team members. You can also come here and go to your workspace settings and then see your team members here. And when you're here, you will see their permissions, so the different roles they have. If you have somebody that you're waiting for them to accept an invitation, you will see invitation pending. And you can always come in here and uninvite either someone who hasn't accepted or someone who is a current member and maybe leaving the team or no longer needs access. If you need to add somebody, click the add team member, add an email, and then choose the role for them. The different roles, you have a viewer who can see things and make comments. You have an editor who can actually make changes on those pages, create new pages, but they cannot publish new pages. So you as a manager or as an owner would need to publish those pages, and a manager can do pretty much anything except for change your billing information. So Once you click invite, they will get an email and it will look like this. And it will say you're invited to collaborate. It will offer them a 14-day trial, which only counts for their personal space. They can still work with your workspace even after that 14 days is over. So let me come back and we are going to look at how we use this. So when you're on landing pages, you can look at a page and you will see preview and you will also see comment. Preview will take you to a preview that you can still get to comments from, but will not be commentable automatically. But you can click comment here. You can also get into these from preview within the page builder itself. And then on a page, you'll now have the ability to target commenting. You see that you can turn this off. That's the mode that you would have come in from preview. And once you find an area that you want to put a comment on, click. It will give you the ability to have it for the team or for anybody. You can name people here and it will tag them to it, and you could add a comment for them. When you comment that way, they will then get an email that says you have a message on this where you're mentioned, and they can go in and reply, and it will bring them right back into that page. Once you have a comment, you can look at old comments, you can actually resolve them, and you will see these green check marks, and you can also use this box on the side to see a list of all the comments that are there. Lastly, the other thing that you can do once you have collaborators is in the dashboard on your last worked on, you can see comment or changes, not just from those people, but from yourself. So now everybody's together and you can filter just for me or not me. And that's all the pieces for collaboration. So next, let's look at that slider. So you can see this moving. It may be moving a little quickly, but that is the slider. It has arrows that allows me to work with it. It shows the slide that I'm on, and it kind of just moves for users to see that interaction. And this is how you create it. You can come to the page and insert a carousel from this tool on the side, and it will drop a blank carousel with a few blank slides. You can see once I'm selected in here, I can see slides, I can add and I can remove slides. I can drag them into different order. And for each slide, once you click in, you will be able to drop any components onto that slide and create what you want. Next, you have like carousel settings where you can control things like those arrow colors that we saw. You can do the dots that were on the bottom that shows the progress of where you're at, or you can change whether they're inside or outside the block. So this one has a transparent background, but if you had a full image and you wanted your arrows outside of the image, you could do that, or you can put them inside, and the same with the dots, they can go inside or outside. A few things to think about on these when you're building them is what you're putting on there. Now, you can put pretty well any element on there, but we would recommend not putting a form on one that somebody's having to move, and not, if you're putting it on a form that they can move, not hiding it, because you're kind of hiding your CTA. And if it moves automatically, it will not stop moving if they are interacting with it. So if you had a form on there and it is scrolling and they're filling in, it will scroll away from them, which is a little frustrating. The other thing I'd say that's not great to put on them is videos, because that video will continue to play after it transitions to the next slide. So you will hear that video, but you will not see it. So if you want these to really work well, think about that. The other thing is really in here when you think about your speed. So I have 300 milliseconds on this transition. I like to look at them and read them really slowly. You could read them like the Zootopia sloth, or like I usually read them backwards. So read words backwards, and if it's scrolled before you've gotten through the words, it's probably moving too fast. The last thing I'd say probably not to put on there is custom HTML. While you may know how big that HTML is and size it, Sometimes those will grow a little bit, and because this is a fixed area within a component, you don't want to have that slide kind of get broken. So those are things that you could do, but really kind of be cautious about them. Next, let's look at our fluid grid block. So as we were talking about, fluid grid blocks are broken up into containers. You can see these numbers, I have a 1, a 2, and you can enter the container itself by clicking on those, and you see I'm in the container setting. You can also get to them from the block here, where you see your block edit, and you edit the block style, and from here you can see your containers. Within the block style itself, you can add that padding and build space between the containers and add your background colors and things that you could do with a block normally. If you go into a container itself, you can control multiple things, not just that padding, the spacing between your components, which are sitting in here, but also the flow of those components. So right now you see they're stacked. They could have gone sideways, though that's not a great experience. So we're going back. Justification will line those elements together within the block. So you can see I can bring them all to the top, to the bottom. I can stretch them out. I can put spacing around them. This space around puts the exact same space around each component. So every one of these will have different space. So you see like a double space here. That's good if you're stacking multiple of these kind of blocks and you want that spacing to be even when they're all stacked together. Or you can put exact even space between everything. You can also change alignments depending on what kind of elements you have in there. Because these are full width, that alignment's not going to do anything. The next thing I want to show you is kind of how to build one of these. When you go into blocks, you'll see in here that you can do our traditional canvas block. That's that pixel perfect, drag and drop exactly where I want, or this fluid grid where it kind of uses that responsiveness to resize to the components. And you can see if you've saved some of these, they do have a little pill that says fluid, unlike the ones that are the canvas blocks and don't have that pill. When you want to build one of these, go to fluid grid block, you'll see these 20 variation grids that Griffin was talking about. Some of them are combinations, so you could use this and this as two separate blocks and then manage it. But if you use these combined ones, then the heights will always stay the same. So if one of them grows, the other one will grow. Once you find the one you want and you select it, you will then need to choose where you want to insert this. I will insert it here. And you will see while it's a blank block, it does have these borders around it that shows you like which one is where. Then you can insert your components. And right now we are limited on the components that can go in there. You can put a headline, you can put a paragraph, you can put an image, and you can put some sort of CTA button. And then once those components are in there, you can actually slide them around. And when you move them, it's really just changing the order that they're in, but they all will still stay with that flow as I showed you in these tools. So that should be everything with your fluid grid block. Next, let's look at heat maps. I am working off of a prototype because it's a little easier to show you, but this should have all the same functionality you will find within the app. When you go into a preview, as we saw before, you have these little toggles at the top, and we'll toggle heat map on, and that will kind of darken the page and give you this toolbar on the side. When you open that toolbar, you will see a few different things. First, you'll have variations and versions, and these are all separated because as you change variations and versions, you're changing where elements exist on a page. And a heat map is really a map of where those actions took place. And because the heat map doesn't know what's on the page, it can't really look for the fact that those have moved. So find the one that you're looking at and then choose what you want to look at. So first we have mouse movements. We can select like a version and we'll look, and that will show you mouse movement is kind of like hovering areas. They'll slow in that area, they're looking, they haven't clicked. And that can show you where people are kind of focusing as they move, because some people will move their cursor with their eyes just to kind of move them along. Though you will also see a lot of dark areas in the middle for someone who's maybe using like a touchpad to scroll. They will be kind of pausing as it slides across the page. Next, you have clicks, and the click areas, while you see them around buttons, as Michelle said, you can look for clicks that are in areas of things that don't click. And maybe that's a sense of confusion and you want to make sure that's clear. But because these can't actually tell that there's a button below there, some of these click numbers will be different from the conversion numbers that you see for those elements. Because people miss or they're clicking multiple times. And, you know, it really only captures one for actual analytics. And then lastly, you have scroll depth, and that's the one where as you scroll, you can see these percentages. And as Michelle said, like you can find a percentage that people are coming to, and maybe that's where you want your CTA. If you find that a lot of people are scrolling pretty far, maybe you don't have a CTA up at the top and you want to get that in there. So that's always a good thing. And if you see a lot of people falling off at the top of the page, that's not always a bad signal, because maybe they are taking that action because they already know what's going on. So always think contextually about what you're getting out of a heat map and the fact that it is visual rather than like data driven based on actual things on the page. And then lastly, let's look at our APIs. I'm going to show you how to get your API key once you have access. So you'll want to come to your account and go to My Account Admin. This is going to bring you to a page where you will see your token here. If you don't have a token, you will have to create one initially. Once you have it, you can use the eye to see the token and copy it out. You can also hit the copy to clipboard and copy it that way. If you need to regenerate it, you can click create new and that will let you regenerate it. I will not do that right now because we are using that key. But once you have it, you can use that to do different things. You also have this technical documentation. And when you come to this page, you will be able to see all the information you need, a lot of information about it, limits, things like that. Like Michelle said, be a little, conservative with how you're using it, because you can only do 200 requests per minute right now. And if you exceed that, it will not get information back until it resets that next minute. Now, we have a lot of information about authorization. It will tell you how to use this. We have snippets of code, different ways to do this and use it. And there's always different samples as you go. Then we have all the different endpoints that you can use. So first, we'll kind of go top down through the application. You have an account. What workspaces do I have? That will let you see your workspaces. You can get information about a single workspace. We also are now letting you add a workspace and you can rename it. You can delete a workspace. So if you have a lot of workspaces that you're trying to manage, you can go through and kind of manage them from here and clean up your account. Next, you have team members, which is all those collaborators, how many are in which workspace. So you can see them. We are going to be adding the ability to add and remove and invite people from the API, which means if you do have some sort of system that manages your users, as you have new users come in and out, you can automatically invite them into Instapage, though they will still need to take that action within their email to accept that and get into that account. You have pages, and this will give you all your pages for a workspace. This is also one of the few where we have actions that you can really take, like publishing and unpublishing, which are big things we do in our application. So you can get a workspace from that. You can get all the pages. You can decide to publish them, unpublish them. You can search for specific things, and we are always adding new ways to search them. Right now, you can do title and URL. We will be adding groups and different things about dates so that you can find specific pages in a single call, as opposed to having to pull them all and look at that data and reparse it, which will then make you use fewer calls and be a little more conservative that way. Next, we have things like personalization, which personalizations are treated much like a part of a page. So not only will you need an ID for the workspace, but you will need a page ID. And then you can get a list of personalizations for that. We will then think about how we can add new things as you go, maybe being able to trigger those and use those in other ways. But for now, that will get your personalization information, and you will then be able to maybe pull that into another report. Analytics, this is for a workspace, and within that, you will get information that has page IDs, but you can't currently generate just analytics for an individual page. You have form submissions. So if you have a form on a page, that information gets pulled into a big system where you can get all that for a workspace and find any new leads that have come in and maybe process those leads in a different way. We do have some new ways coming in the future to process leads, but for now, this is the best way for you to pull them directly in a system if you're not using one of our inbuilt integrations or our lead notification emails. Then you have experiments, which are treated like a parallel to pages. So you use your workspace ID, and then you will get a list of experiments that exist. And from there, you can see the status. Maybe they've ended. You can see how they performed and utilize that information. And we are looking at ways to start and end experiments from here as well. Though this, built as it is, does not let you make changes to that experiment yet. So you still would need to go into the application and create that experiment so that you could manage them from here. And that's all of the different endpoints. There are many other examples in here, and you can always go back and get your key from here. But for a great example, let's have Michelle show you the spreadsheet that we were talking about earlier.
Thank you, Evan. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So in the Help Center article that is being released, we will have a link that you can click, which will send you to this page that requests you to make a copy of the document. So we'll just go ahead and make our copy here. Takes a second. All right. And so the first page that you're going to be landing on is this page where you input the information. So we have instructions here for you to follow along. But essentially what you'll do is once you get your token, you're going to go ahead and paste that information here in the first cell. And then what you will do is you will go ahead and click generate report. So we're going to go ahead and run the script. And then as you can see this running, you'll start to see different information coming in here. Oh, so this is something that'll happen. It will ask you to authorize the script to run. This will be for the first time that you set up the account. So let me come back here and run this again. So we'll go ahead and generate that report. And now you can see it's running the script, and you'll start to see this information populate in here. And what's happening is those calls are being made and it's starting to fill out the information in these other tabs. So this is a kind of simple snapshot for you to get a look at everything once all the information is pulled in. But if you want to dive into the different sections, we're pulling in the different workspaces, the different traffic and conversions, the last 12 months of information, and then the pages. And again, this is just being pulled into this snapshot. So that takes a moment to run. Like I said, the more calls that you're that you have, it's going to take a little bit longer. This one just nearly wrapped up. It's almost done, but we can see here we have our owner ID. These are the workspaces that that owner has, the number of published pages, unique visitors, and this is comparing for the last month over the last 12 months. We have the number of conversions. So again, the last month over the last 12 months. And then we have this breakdown of the top 10 trafficked pages and the lowest 10 trafficked pages. So this will be different for every account as that pulls in. And then at the bottom, we just have this overall view of the last year's breakdown of, how many pages that received traffic versus how many conversions occurred overall in the account. But just a really nice way to get started with the API. Once you make a copy of this, you can also view the app script over here. So you just go to that extensions and then you can see how this API has been built. So if it's something where you want to add something to it based on the documentation or remove from it, once you make a copy of this sheet, you're able to kind of play with the script on your own to add or remove as needed. If for some reason it breaks, you can always make a new copy from the original document. But again, it's just a really nice way to add in this information, get a snapshot of your account and how it's been performing for not only the last month, but the last year. So very excited to release that feature out to you soon. If you do want to have the API enabled, please, I think, Evan, where are we looking for a few more people to provide feedback as well?
If somebody requests access, we will give it to them.
All right.
Yeah, we do want to get more feedback, not only on how this is performing, but if you do hit a wall and there's a different action that you need it to do, or there's information that maybe it's missing, like all that's very useful. We are trying to come up with these based upon things that people want built that maybe we don't have a priority right now to build, and people can then do it themselves. But we don't know everything people need. So if you have a need, definitely let us know.
All right. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and move into our Q&A section. So if you want to go ahead and put your questions in there, I think one that we had starting off when you were talking about collaboration, Evan, somebody asked, what's the difference between kind of the team view and the everyone view when you add in a comment?
So the team, you can really give like a name and send that to them. Everyone means that anybody would be able to see those comments who can get access to that preview, because you know you can share the previews itself.
Okay, it's good information to have. And then regarding fluid grid blocks, there was a question of, are you able to build your own grids?
We do not currently let you build grids. That is something we're looking at for the future. The way you build grids is really complicated, and so we wanted to make this easy and accessible. And the grids that are there kind of cover most use cases. I think usually it's that somebody wants to move one of the barriers, and maybe that's the easiest way for us to go about it. We're still looking at like what that kind of next step is, but we want to see how people are using them to figure out what is that best next step.
Let's see, one more question regarding carousels. Are you able to save slides to be used in different carousels?
Currently, you cannot, but with the release of things like a library for pop-ups, a library for slides, seems like a great next step.
That's good. And then also like to keep in mind, so if you're using like Insta blocks or global blocks, that's also another way. If you wanted to carry that through, you could start with a baseline of the slides you previously created and then create something new from that, or add or change different slides once you add it to a new page. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's see. I don't see any other questions coming in. So just to kind of wrap things up for everybody on the call. So if you would like more information about these features, or maybe you haven't had a chance to create an account and start using these features, feel free to log or to select the schedule my demo option. When the slide gets sent out, you'll have access to this link, but it's just a bit.ly IP demo SS3. So you can go ahead and click on that to schedule a demo, get access, and learn more information about the different features that we offer, as well as test out some of the features that we spoke about today. So very excited to have had this opportunity to meet with everyone. And if any further questions arise, please reach out and let us know. Have a wonderful rest of your day.